So watching some of the special features and a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, I noticed a few things. I just want to make a couple of corrections on my initial wild thoughts on The Lost Boys and just a couple of additional things. One, I realized that I misread the opening credits of the movie. I was just so excited about seeing some of these big names. It was produced by Dick Donner, not directed by Dick Donner, and it was directed by Joel Schumacher. I had that backwards when I first watched it, and this correction kind of makes a little more sense in some of the things I noticed. One, Dick Donner producing it, it sounds like the original concept, and as I mentioned, it sounded like it felt like a Goonies sequel, and then Joel Schumacher came in and said in one of these interviews that the movie, the initial script was a bunch of 13-year-olds, and it felt like, to him, like Goonies fighting vampires. And I was like, that's exactly what I thought. That explains the kind of the pull in the tone between a comedy and the drama, because Joel Schumacher came in trying to stretch out, making it more with like teenagers. He had this big vision of these flashy, good-looking. This has nothing to do with him being homosexual, but I'm just saying his vision of these hotter, more vibrant characters than just a bunch of young preteens fighting vampires. That took out some of the goofy elements, but some of that was still left in because you still had Corey Feldman and Corey, whatever his name is, playing the characters fighting the zombies. So the goofy stuff is still there, as I mentioned, the Goonies kind of stuff, and then you have the teenage 20-something stuff with Kiefer Sutherland, Alex Winters, and the others. So that explains the tone breakdown for me. Still, none of it worked. I maybe if I watched this when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it, thought it was kind of fun, and grew up with it as kind of a cult classic, as apparently there's a big following with it. I just didn't go for it. The other thing that makes sense is the director, Joel Schumacher. He praised quite a bit the cinematographer, who's Michael Chapman. Michael Chapman, I looked him up. He did The Fugitive and Taxi Driver, a few other big movies, Raging Bull, I think, and had some Oscar nominations for those, which makes complete sense because those are beautiful shot movies, including Kindergarten Cop, beautifully shot movie. That makes sense for some of the camera angles. I'm wondering how you could watch the commentary, but I don't really care that much. About some of those shots that I really, really appreciated, how much of that had to do with the cinematographer, because Joel Schumacher praised him quite a bit, and then they interviewed him in some of these behind the scene features. One thing I'll mention though about Joel Schumacher, other than his clear focus and attention on the boys in The Lost Boys, even during the one sex scene in the movie, completely focused on the boy. You could barely even see the girl. It's just kind of an interesting. I already said, yeah, I can't think tonight. It's too late. I've been talking about this movie too much in my head. Your emphasis is the word I was looking for. The emphasis being the boy in The Lost Boys. Whatever, that's fine. Says taste. But the other thing is the color palette. The movie has a lot of beautiful sequences based on the color and tone and a lot of shadow work. I really appreciate shadow work in movies, and that's one thing I'll give credit to the Batman movies, his Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. The colors and the shadow work, especially when you look at sequences like in the Batcave, like when in the opening sequence of Batman Forever, when Val Kilmer comes up and the like lights coming down on him, it's like blue or green or whatever around him, and you can barely see like some of the tones of the suit and the contour lines and everything in his face. Really cool stuff like that, and Batman around a lot of reds and purples and blues and a lot of hues around that really make it more vibrant. I'm not just talking about the neon fight sequences in those movies, but this movie likewise has a lot of cool fights has a lot of cool visuals during the fight sequences when you have a lot of aerial combat and you have a lot of things in different areas in the cave or else in the red lit house that they're in the end, things like that. Visually is really cool, and the cinematographer, again, Michael Chapman, he did say that the visuals and vision he said vision of Schumacher really did contribute to what he put together. So the camera angles and the shots that were done, I think, were gorgeous. The colors and the shadow, I think a lot of that had to do with Joel Schumacher's vision, and there's praise there. The tone still a mess. I just couldn't get into it. It's fun seeing it. It's a goofy movie. It's a fun thing to watch for that reason, not as a serious movie or even what I would say a good teen horror movie. And that's what they were praising it for from the interviews and things I was watching. But since then, there's a lot better teen horror movies, like the Scream franchise, for one. Anyway, that's all. That's some more wild thoughts on The Lost Boys.